again, true believers. This is my channel, Mr. Miracle Comics. My name is Dave, and I'm here to help you build up your collection for cheap. Alright, so today I've got 5 more undervalued comic books that you can go out, find in dollar bins or at flea markets or whatever for cheap. That'll help you build your collection, and years down the road, maybe add some value to it. So, the first book on my list, it's from 1974, and it is Marvel Team Up number 22. Now, I picked this book because another good YouTube buddy of mine, Roger, whose channel is called Metallo, he's been doing a series on Marvel value stamps, a really, really good series on Marvel value stamps. Please go check it out. I will actually leave a link for those Marvel value stamp videos of his in the description here. And the reason that it motivated me for that is that there are quite a few Marvel value stamp collectors out there. And they may not cut them out of the book, but they're going to want one of every book that makes up an entire run of Marvel value stamps. All 92, 96, I don't know, you'd have to ask Metallo. Go check out his channel. He'll tell you for sure how many there are. And the reason that I picked this one is because if you're collecting Marvel value stamps, you can get Spider-Man in several different issues. You can get Electro in different issues. You can get Kraven the Hunter in different issues, or Captain America in different issues. However, you can only get this Marvel value stamp in this issue. It wasn't put into any other comic book issues except for Marvel Team Up 22. Now, he's not a major character. His name is Braha. Anyway, he's one of the Atlanteans. He hangs out with Namor. He's kind of a bad guy with him and stuff. But that's his value stamp there. And like I said, this is the only comic book that you can get that in. So if you're a Marvel value stamp collector, whether you collect Marvel Team Up or not, you have to buy this issue. Everybody who collects Marvel value stamps has to buy this issue. Everybody that collects Marvel Team Up has to buy this issue. And you can still find this book in dollar bins or for cheap. So I think it's undervalued in that it has cross collectability. People aren't just collecting the comic book, they're collecting something that's also contained inside it. Now, they may not clip them out, they just, collect them all the books to make sure they have a full set. But if you do, you need this book. So I believe for, pulling it out of dollar bins and its cross collectability, it's definitely undervalued. All right, so the next book on our list is from 1987, and it is John Byrne's Superman Volume Number 2, Number 1. And not only did Superman kind of get, revamped with his powers and stuff by John Byrne, this was at one of the height of John Byrne's career, really. He was a comic book god at this time. I mean, he still is, but at this time he was really prolific in comic books. And after Crisis and all the other stuff, this book became the first appearance of Metallo, right? John Coburn? Yeah, John Coburn's first appearance as Metallo. Yes, there are Golden Age books and Silver Age books that have Metallos in them. There's different incarnations of the character. Pretty close to him, even John Coburn, but those have all been erased from existence by Crisis. And this is now considered Metallo's first appearance. And yet you can find this book for $1 into some dollar bins. You can find it in $5, the $5 bin. If your LCS has like mine does, he has a kind of a rack of stuff that's not quite good enough to go on the wall, but it's not cheap enough to go in the dollar bin. And that's where I found this book for $5. And yeah, it's a really nice high grade. I wouldn't pay more than $10 for this book. But being a first appearance of a major character like Metallo, as well as being a brand new kind of storyline for Superman, and John Byrne's first time writing Superman, or no, he did Man of Steel, but like John Byrne's first real series with Superman in it. For $5, I think this book is really undervalued. So that's Superman Volume 2, Number 1 from 1987. All right, so this next book is from 1971, and it is a Jack Kirby fineness for a Bronze Age book. and that is Mr. Miracle #2. So at this point, we all know that the DC comic book movie universe is they're having like they're changing things up. They're going to do things a little differently. Justice League wasn't working. Batman versus Superman wasn't working. These were big money losses for these for the Warner Brothers company. So they're a little gun shy now about continuing on with those franchises. So what I've heard is that they want to do single stories. No longer are they going to have a big connected universe. They're just going to put out comic book movies that are encapsulate one story, one continuity, which is fine. It's a good way to go. I'm really excited for the Joker movie that's coming out in October. As far as I know, though, the New Gods is still a go at the DCEU. How that is going to shape up, I don't know, but they've still put money into it, and it hasn't been canceled. It's still going to be a movie, the New Gods. And this book is the first appearance of Granny Goodness. And Granny Goodness is one of the New Gods on Darkseid's side, and she is basically like this evil, sadistic nanny for children. She raised Mr. Miracle. She's also one of Darkseid's right-hand men. She is a very powerful character and appears in many, many, many issues. So if they do a New Gods movie, you can bet they're going to include Granny Goodness, as well as this is the first appearance of Dr. Bedlam. And Dr. Bedlam is like Darkseid's main mad scientist guy. So there's a really, really good chance if they do a New Gods movie, you're going to see Dr. Bedlam as well. I got this book probably for $30 now. It's already starting to poke up on people's radar, so it's definitely one to buy sooner than later. And yeah, get that Granny Goodness before any kind of photos or anything like that start coming out about the movie. If there's ever even a leaked photo that shows Granny Goodness, this book is going to take a huge jump in price, just like first appearance of Darkseid has taken a big jump in price, and Mr. Miracle #1 has taken a big jump in price. This book as well. Okay, Mr. Miracle #2 from 1971, Jack Kirby. Alright, so the next book on my list, and this one is a little bit outside, but I really think it's very, very undervalued. And that is Dark Horse Presents #1. Alright, so the first Dark Horse Presents gave a story about Black Cross. It is also the first appearance of a character called Concrete. Now, Concrete has been optioned as a TV show along at the same time the Umbrella Academy did, and they said they're going to do the Umbrella Academy first, which they have and is now released. And the rumor is that Concrete is going to get next. And Concrete, if you've ever read any of the series, it's a very, very well written book, and it's entertaining. It's about a guy whose brain gets put inside like a big concrete body by aliens, and how he lives like that. Anyway. More importantly, I think, though, this is actually the very first comic book published by Dark Horse Comics, right? So if you're looking at, like, Dark Horse was not a fly-by-night company by any way. Like, if you look at the very, very first Marvel comic to be published, if you look at the very, very first DC comic to be published, these books are worth tens of thousands of dollars. Right? I think the very first DC Comics was a comic book called New Fun Comics from 1935, and it had like rabbit stories and cowboy stories. There was no superheroes. It was pre-Superman. But that book is worth like $60,000 in like very fine condition, of course, but even $10,000 in poor condition. And if you think that this is like a major comic book company's very first published issue, I think that if you could even realize 1% of the value that New Fun Comics did, this book will be worth hundreds. I mean, I don't think this book will ever be worth hundreds and hundreds, but I think it really flies under a lot of people's radar. They do know, like people do know, it's the first appearance of Concrete, although Concrete is undervalued right now because nobody knows that he's going to get a TV show, but just being that very first comic book published by like a big publisher makes this book undervalued, because I bought this one for $10. Okay, so cheap. And if it goes up to a $30 book, that's great. if it, years and years from now went up to, $100 book, that'd be fantastic. But, I'm not counting on that. However, for $10, I'm willing to take the chance, right? So, Dark Horse presents #1 from 1986. Okay, so not terribly old, but again, not a lot of people realize that this is the very first Dark Horse comic book ever published. Okay, so the next one, I'm going to put up a little disclaimer here. It's a spoiler. Okay, if you haven't seen the Shazam movie, turn off the video if you hate spoilers. It's not a huge spoiler, guys. Like, it's not a really big one. It will completely spoil the mid-credit scene, and that's all that it will spoil. But it will spoil that, so if you're one of those people that just hates any kind of spoiler at all, stop the video now. I'm not going to do any more books after this one anyway. Okay, so that's been enough time. Spoiler warning. So the book I'm going to pick up, it's from 1973, and it is Shazam #2. Alright, so this is the first Bronze Age appearance of Mr. Mind. Okay, so if you watch Shazam, in the mid-credit scene, there's you'll see Dr. Sylvania. He's in his cell now, and he's scribbling on the wall, and he breaks his pen, and he's all frustrated, and all of a sudden there's a little voice, and it pans over to the windowsill, and you see this crazy little worm talking in this robotic voice. And that worm is Mr. Mind. And his first Bronze Age appearance is here in Shazam #2. So Mr. Mind also forms the Monster Society of Evil, which includes characters like Dr. Sylvana and Black Adam, as well as a few others, right? So I'm going to start collecting Monster Society of Evil first appearances for those characters, because I believe that the Monster Society of Evil may just show up in the next Shazam movie. Okay, so sorry to spoil that if you didn't take a look, or if you haven't seen the movie yet, but get this book now, because a lot of people are like, who the heck is that little worm at the end? And they don't know it's Mr. Mind, like you do, because you listen to my channel. And this book should see a marked jump in price over the next several months. Okay? Cool. So this has been Mr. Miracle Comics. My name is Dave. 5 undervalued books for you to put into your collection for cheap. I'll see you next video.